Marlboro Township Board of Education. Vinnie, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Balomo,
Here.
Mrs. Gandhi,
Here.
Mr. Hyatt,
Here.
Mr. Olansky,
Here.
Mrs. McCormack,
Here.
Dr. Miskowitz,
Here.
Mr. Petruno,
Here.
Mrs. Seward,
Here.
Mrs. Mendez.
Okay, sir. Sunshine Law. Please be advised this meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, the Sunshine Law. An adequate notice of the date, time, and agenda has been sent to the Asbury Park Press and Star Ledger. It has been posted and filed with the Marlboro Township Clerk. Copies have also been sent to each district school and other area newspapers in accordance with the law. Draw your attention to, but not going to read in full, the statement of videotaping a public portion of Board of Education meetings, public comment statement, as well as no smoking or vaping on school grounds. Everybody please rise and join me for the pledge. Thank you. Announcement, sir?
No announcements.
Mr. Colorado, the school bus driver abstracts.
Yep, all abstracts were run and all have privileges in good standing.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to open up public comments. As a reminder, you each get 3 minutes, and as well, if there's a board or administration responds, there'll be an opportunity for a follow-up. Do we have any on the list?
I have no one that has signed up. Would anybody like to speak?
Please state your name, sir.
No? All right. Hey. Good evening. Adam Pollock, 52 St. Lawrence Way, Marlboro. Hope you all are having a good summer. I wanted to talk about phones in school again. As we've discussed in previous meetings, there is an opportunity here for us to make an impact on the mental health threat associated with phones for our students in K through 8. Advocating for a more focused community standards within the schools for smartphones and smartwatches is a logical first step. I sent you all an email earlier this week about Middletown's actions. Middletown Board of Ed passed a policy last month called Away for a Day. Very simple policy. This is what it says. It says at the elementary and middle school levels, students will have their cell phones or mobile devices in their backpacks or lockers. The phone cannot be in a student's pocket during the school day. Also, all cell phones have to be turned off when students enter elementary school and middle school. If a student needs to talk to their parent or guardian, they need to go to the front office and get permission to get their cell phone out of their locker. At Ms. Mendez's advisement, I did look at policy 2361, which is the acceptable use of computer networks and computer resources policy. It calls out electronic communications, and I agree that the current language is a good start. This is what it currently says. Electronic communications refer to all communications transmitted by means of an electronic device, including but not limited to telephones, cellular phones, computers, audio, video players, and cameras. All students' use of electronic communication devices must follow district policies and regulations not to interfere with the learning environment or disrupt the orderly discipline of the school and requires permission of a staff member. So it doesn't say anything about smartphones, aka internet-enabled phones, the use of apps, or the use of smartwatches. So our policy references cameras and video players, but it doesn't reference smartwatches or social media apps at all, or other devices activities that students currently have access to. So let's update this policy to represent what is currently happening with smart devices in our school and communicate those norms and expectations to the community. I also really think a positive message would be from the superintendent about delaying access to social media and recommending delaying the introduction of smartphones to students in our district. That would be a positive step. As I've said before, we can impact community norms by educating the community on the known mental risks of access to social media and phones. Let's do something about this together. Again, appreciate your support on this topic. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. I know Mrs. Mendez said she was going to put that for the policy committee to look at, and we plan to do that. Do you want to address about the parents part, sir?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Pollack. I would also direct your attention to policy 3283. That's electronic communication between teaching staff members and students, which also encompasses, I think, some of the issues you were talking about. Not to say that it can't be updated, and we can certainly look at that as a policy committee. But I would like to direct your attention to that policy as well, because it does address some of those issues.
Can I just also, so Mr. Pollack, we as board members get these like highlight emails. They come every night at like 1:30 in the morning and my phone goes off. This week, I tried to scan through and one of them caught my eye. I think it was Cherry Hill. I don't know if anybody else read it. They also started to adapt and review cell phone use. So if you want to look into them, they did a survey. They posted the survey. It was quite interesting. I think it was 52% of parents refused to get on board. So what they did was they adapted their policy to read kind of like ours, where it says no cell phones during instructional time, but it's not like banned from their persons, like they can keep it on them. So I just thought, if you want to look into Cherry Hill, see what they did, I thought of you when I read it.
Thank you, Ashley. Anybody else from the public wish to speak?
We're all fighting over the microphone. Can you believe this? Good morning. Good afternoon. I started by saying good morning. I'm still confused on my days. Good evening, Brian Cohen, Marlboro. I'm here tonight to make sure you're aware of an exciting opportunity that I believe our district should be considering. It's to enhance our cybersecurity measures, and you know this is not the first time I've talked about this in the context of this board meeting. So I'm glad to sort of be able to bring forward some ideas and some other additional opportunities for you. I also do look forward to seeing the initial draft of the cybersecurity policy that the board has said they're working on. So when that's ready to be reviewed, I'm looking forward to being able to have the opportunity to read it. So recently, the Federal Communications Commission, or the FCC, announced a school and library cybersecurity pilot program. We're allocating nearly $200 million to this program over a 3-year period, specifically to address cybersecurity in K-12 education. The funding represents a significant step forward for the existing E-rate program. And as Mr. Caraballo, I'm sure, knows, there's a lot that you cannot do with the E-rate program. So it only covers basic firewalls and configurations. The FCC acknowledged that the E-rate program actually cannot fully protect schools, broadband networks, and data from cyber attacks. So this new pilot program is a response to the persistent lobbying that the FCC has received over the years from K-12 groups for increased federal support to help combat the number of rising attacks on schools. And this initial round of funding will actually help the FCC also understand the needs of K-12 institutions across the country and help shape future cybersecurity funding. Now, there is, however, unfortunately, limited funding available, so you're competing as a district against the rest of the country. But in order to be accepted into the program, you have to make some crucial decisions here and consider for your application. And based upon my national perspective, and I do have a national perspective because of my position that I hold, that there are steps that you can take to prepare. Number one, I would like to suggest that you develop a comprehensive cybersecurity plan. Okay, Marlboro Township Public Schools should be interested in the program to need to demonstrate their experience with cybersecurity, their commitment to best practices, and their current or planned use for the federal resources that they would be asking for. The detailed plan should outline the specific goals, your services and equipment that you're asking for, and the risks to be addressed. The second thing you should do is you should understand and you should document your current cybersecurity risk, which you probably have done, and as well as the measures you're taking. It's essential that you have a clear understanding of your current cybersecurity environment. I'm sure you do. This includes knowing what tools and practices you have already been put in place, identifying your gaps, and planning for future needs. And the third thing you should be thinking about is tracking and supporting your cybersecurity activities. I can stop here and send you the rest, or I can sort of take 2 more minutes and share with you the rest of this advice.
Just want to take a minute and just finish up on what.
Sure. So the other thing is cybersecurity activities. You should basically track and report the impact of the cybersecurity tools that you're using. You should seek some external support. There are a lot of companies, there are a lot of companies that you do business with already who may help you sort of think about how to submit this application. And I've seen that done in many times. There's also national networks like COSIN, the Consortium of School Networks, the State Education Technology, STEDA. There's a lot of organizations out there that can help you do this. And I would suggest that you sort of take this action. I urge the board to prioritize the deployment and the development of its cybersecurity program. Don't overlook the opportunity for these funds. This is what you need to sort of help put yourself in a better position. So thank you, and if you have any other questions, I'll be around to sort of be happy to answer them.
Thank you. So we did also discuss today in our safety and security meeting, our cybersecurity actions that you just mentioned. And we did also, the board did meet, this safety and security committee did meet with Tom Enney. And we did discuss our current plan and all the things that you mentioned, all the measures he has in place and what he does to constantly see to improve. But everything you mentioned is important. We are currently reviewing it again, along with our head of safety and security, our new Tom, what's his name? Tom Rose. And it's going to be updated again. So it is in progress. It's not stagnant. It's in progress, and we'll be reporting out as we go. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Sir?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Arun Jolly. I'm here as a concerned citizen of Marlboro. Basically, I want to know what the protocol is if one of you has not filed their ethics statement disclosure for this calendar this year. Is there a penalty from the state for the residents or fines, and if they should be allowed to serve as a board member, because there may be some financial or other concerns or conflicts.
First of all,
I've seen as of today, the Ethics Commission website, one of you has not filed that ethics complaint, and I've been watching it since April 30th. It was due. It's been 2.5 months overdue. Are you guys, is there protocol, somebody watches that, or?
I'll post. Gabrielle, would you like to?
Well, every year.
Are you talking about the financial disclosure?
No, the ethics.
I think it's a financial disclosure that was due by April 30th. Yeah, because the ethics was done at reorg, or perhaps it was right after reorg.
It's to show if there are any financial or other conflicts.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is the financial disclosure. Yeah.
All I wanted to know was if there was a protocol in place that if somebody is not abiding by that or not compliant, and the district is not compliant, is district concerned about any fines or from the state?
No,
Or is there a
he's talking
protocol that they
about
should continue to serve?
I think he's talking about the financial disclosure we have to do every year.
Yeah.
So if you don't do it, who finds out you don't do it, and what happens, right? That's my question?
Yeah.
That's your question?
Yeah, so we compile a list. There's one in February of 2024 and June of 2024. Anybody who's appointed, past when the due date happens for the list, they would have to fill one out in June of 2024. They would not be, obligated to fill it out in February. So we are compliant, and the DOE has not said that we are not.
We passed June now.
Yeah, I know. The June one is still open, though. It's due. The list is due by June. So anybody who's outstanding that didn't make the February list would. So there's 2 submissions. It's February and then June. But February submission is due the DOE to see the list, and then April 30th it's due. So June's list is due in June, and then I think it's in August where.
So,
Yeah.
so
Mr.
then
Jolly?
you're agreeing there's one that's still due, but it's not due yet because.
Correct, because they were They did not make that list
So
by the
there's,
due
you're,
date.
you're correct, there's one outstanding, but according to a business
But we are
administrator,
compliant.
it's,
So you guys are aware
it's
of
not,
Yes.
it's not due
Yeah.
yet.
I think it might be me. I'm not sure 100%, but I did speak to Vinny about this a couple months ago, like when I first joined, because I know what the financial statement is, and I asked, but it was already submitted and I was appointed after, so I was waiting for the next one, and that'll be done, taken care of. So if it is me that you're talking about, I'm aware, I'm on it, it'll be submitted in
I just
time.
want to make sure it's not, I didn't want to
No
single you
problem,
out,
no problem, it's okay.
public, but, you know, my concern is if there are any financial concerns or conflicts, then, you know, you're making decisions, and that's not in their our best interest.
Okay,
There
thank you.
should be some protocol for,
Well, there is a protocol, but we're
There's-
within compliance. of the
There's a
protocol.
protocol. We submit the list when the DOE asks for the list to be submitted, and then whoever's current and active or not active, so we remove the people who are not active from the old list, make it current, and then we submit it as we have it in real time when it's due in February. And then by April 30th, everyone who's on that list needs to finish their disclosure statement and have it approved by the SEC.
and if it's not done by April 30th,
Then
We-
we
we
would get
can't keep on
emails,
going
we
back
would
and forth.
continue to get emails saying that we're out of compliance, and then we would usually get a letter from, I forget what I think the DOE basically saying that they're gonna suspend the board member if they don't comply within a certain time period, and we have not gotten any letters like that because there is still another list to be filled out, and that's June for anybody who was not on the February
So,
one.
April 30th is not the
Well,
cutoff
we-
date.
we-
April
we-
30th is the cutoff
we-
date
we
for the
can't-
first
we-
list.
Vinny, we can't keep going back and forth, so we get to follow up, and we
Okay.
answered your question, we answered the question. We're compliant, the one person who
You are
didn't
not
do it-
compliant.
We are
We
compliant.
are compliant.
Okay. As of April 30th, you were not.
We are with that list that was submitted.
Okay. So there are no consequences to the city?
No, because we're in compliance with the Department of Education.
Okay. But it's on somebody's agenda that needs to be fixed?
Nothing needs to be fixed. The new list is for
Should
June,
be
so.
submitted. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the public wish to speak? Yeah, put the mic on.
I said I just had some follow-up questions, just to understand, like, what just happened, but I guess we could talk
Okay,
about it in
well,
executive.
we'll explain. So there's there's two periods for this file your ethics, your financial reporting. So if you become a board member after a certain date, you have a later time to file it.
So what is that date? That's what I'm trying to say.
What
The
is the due
February
date?
ones would have to be appointed by when?
Well, I believe the due date for, whenever the DOE sets it, whether it's February 10th or the end of February, that's when the list is due to the DOE so they can see who we're submitting to fill out a disclosure. And then once the disclosures have been submitted to them and they see who the active list is, then we reach out as the board secretary's office to make sure all the administrators and all of the Board of Ed who are on that list complete their ethics form, which is why I was always in contact with some of you with regards to assistance with that. And then, once that's done, I review it, submit it to the county for approval, and then they submit it to the Department of Ed for approval. And if they ever get kicked back, that's when I have corrections or edits that need to be done because they reviewed them.
So for
That's
me-
the February list that is due by April 30th. Then there's another list that comes out in June, where anybody who may be on the board now, or maybe a new administrator had started, we would now add them to the list to have theirs finished, so they can be compliant and up to date for the new school year. So that would be due, June lists are very rare, because we don't usually get ones that fall in that category, but sometimes we do, and in this instance, we'd have 2 or 3 that have to be submitted and due by, I think it's August time period. They usually give you 60 days to fill it out when that list is due.
So
So if
even
that list
in-
was due June 30th, by August 30th, that list has to be approved by the DOE, and then they should be updating their link to the website to look at the archives.
Yeah, I know you're very on top of it, because I'm one of the people that you helped me with, but I just want to make sure I understand that, would there ever be financial punishment or fines for being late, or is it, I feel like if it was ever even close to the deadline,
The fines don't get levied against the district. Usually that's the
Yeah.
board member or the administrator who would be out of compliance with the Department of Ed. So that could be, if you're an administrator, you can have your certification suspended if you don't fill them out. If you're a board member, they could suspend you or revoke you from the board, depending on what offense it is or how frequent it is. And that's the same thing with your governance training that you do also.
Thank you, Vinnie. Okay. Nobody else in the public, correct? Okay, we'll move on to communications, sir.
I have none.
I'll bring us to superintendent's report, harassment, intimidation, bullying, HIB.
We have 2 time periods, June 14th, 2024 through June 30th, 2024, no incidents. And July 1st, 2024 through July 10th, 2024, no incidents reported.
Thank you, sir. Following meeting dates: Tuesday, August 20th, 2024, regular. Tuesday, September 17th, 2024, regular. Chad, would you mind reading approval of minutes resolution, please?
Sure. Approval of minutes resolution. Number 1, approval of minutes. Discussion? I so move.
Have a second? Ashley, any discussion? Vinnie, please call roll.
Dr. Miskowitz? Yes. Mr. Petrino?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Palomo?
Yes.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Yes.
Mrs. McCormack?
Yes.
Mr. Hyatt?
Yes.
And Mr. Alonsky?
I have to abstain from April 25th. Yes to the rest. Everybody received a copy of the Secretary of Business Administrator's report, the Board Secretary's monthly certification, as well as the payroll certification. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, move along. Curriculum Committee reports. Dr. Miskowitz.
Our curriculum committee met yesterday, and we had a very productive and healthy meeting. The topics that we discussed were, first, the summer curriculum writing, which we will anticipate be winding down by the end of July, giving the special ed, ELL, and gifted and talented department time to review and add any additional needed components relative to their courses. The courses will be posted on the district website in draft form, and we encourage all parents and the public to, as well as obviously the board, to review them and notify the administration if you have questions. If any of our fellow board members would like to participate and help us read the various curriculum, we would appreciate your assistance. It's because there, as you noted in June, we have quite a number of different curricula that have been revised. The second thing that we discussed was New Jersey CUSAC, New Jersey Quality, a Single Accountability Continuum, which is the state's monitoring system, and the purpose of which is to assure that all children should share in quality education. You can find the entire CUSAC manual on the DOE site, so if you'd like to look at it ahead of time, or if anybody on our board would like to look at it, it's there. The district administrators have been working diligently to gather the necessary materials for their visit by the Office of the County Superintendent. We also discussed the Comprehensive Equity Plan briefly, which all school districts are required to develop and review. And the purpose of this plan is to assure that all districts are achieving, maintaining, and are in compliance with NJAC 6A:7, which in addition to employment practices and staff development includes school and classroom practices in curriculum, student access, guidance, and physical education and athletics. Tonight we will be voting on the statement of assurance to the NJDOE. We also discussed briefly the composition of the technology committee, which will be meeting soon. One of the important things that will be discussed, we anticipate, is the impact of AI within the schools. And would you, I'd like to defer to you, Mr. Lone, so you could talk about what the committee is going to be, doing.
So we have, we're in the process of creating a 3-year technology plan. So we're bringing in various stakeholders to provide input on our direction. Ultimately, it's, an administrative task, but we do find value in getting input from various stakeholders, community members, board members. I know I sent out an email to board members, and some of you did reach out to say that you wanted to be a part, so we'd be happy to have you as well. Once we figure that out, we envision, working with Mrs. Gross, we envision on revisiting that plan on an annual basis, but it really will be a 3-year plan to just sort of outline where we're headed and the devices that will be used. Artificial intelligence will be part of that conversation, and I know that is an ongoing discussion around schools around the nation. So we'll talk about that. Cybersecurity will be part of it. So we're hoping it's an all-encompassing plan, and ultimately we're going to take feedback from, as I mentioned, multiple areas. And I know we also talked about reaching out to the larger community with respect to providing input. Generally our parents providing input on other committees, or even as this work continues, we'll be reaching out on multiple areas. So one of the board members actually brought that to our attention, and I thought that was really good feedback. So we will be doing that. So look out if you're watching from home and you're a parent in the district, look out for opportunities to provide your input and your participation as needed.
I would like to ask a couple questions regarding this. Just for clarification, so I obviously was, someone who reached out and kind of condoned parental involvement as we begin to develop this plan. So you had referenced a technology committee. Is this going to be a standing committee for technology?
No, it's not a standing board committee. It's really
An ad hoc type.
yeah, it's not. I'm not sure I would even call it a committee. We're looking for advisory feedback from people. So we had staff members last week. We have some community members and board members coming in next week.
So this will be fluid. We'll keep it going and keep bringing people in and different stakeholders to develop that. Thank you.
Good.
I have a question around that. You said the community members are involved, right? Again, I know it's administration, so we don't have, but I'm just curious to know, like, how is the selection process done?
So we've had, generally speaking, the way we involve community members is we've had community members reach out in various different ways, either via email, sometimes here, right, offering assistance to provide input, or even just conversations at breaks, at board meetings, or in various events. So that's how this current core group of community members were selected. But as I mentioned, we'll be going out to the larger community, asking our community if they have any interest. We've done that in the past, haven't had a whole lot of interest for, I guess, maybe a variety of reasons. Maybe people don't have time, or feel comfortable with the way things had been carried out in the past. But I'm willing to do that, and I'm willing to reach out to the larger group, and if more people want to get involved, I think that's the more involvement we can get from our parents in our community, the more ideas. We're not all knowing. The room is smarter than any individual person, so I think it's important for us to get as many different viewpoints as possible to at least consider, right? Not saying we can implement every little detail that everyone brings on that advisory group, but I think it's important to get as many willing participants involved so we can at least think about some things that we may not have thought about.
I have a question. Would these meetings be held at night or during the day? I'm wondering, like, if we're going to be involving parents in the community, people work. How have you done it in the past?
In the past, generally during the day. These next week will be during the day, but that's not to say we can't consider doing something in an evening as well.
I thought maybe if you did it in the evening, you might be able to get others. But
We
then
might.
again, you have to, you also have staff that.
Yeah, I think
consider, so.
an effective way to do it is identify the people who are willing and able, and then determine what their schedules look like. If we do have some who say, I can only do it in the evening, would you consider doing an evening session? I would have no problem doing that. But I think it just depends on what our makeup looks like.
And I promise, last question. Again, first year on the board, I'm still learning, so that's why I'm asking the questions. When you select the committee members, do they have, like, for example, cybersecurity is a very specific targeted topic. Do they either have experience, or are they experts in those fields, or is it just kind of open to, you know, even folks that may not have that expertise?
Yeah, so cybersecurity is very specific. So does everyone on the input committee for the community members who are coming next week have that specific experience? No, but they have technology experience, or even just, you know, some ideas and ways to think about either technology or how we can better serve our students in our community. And they've expressed concerns and a willingness to offer their feedback. So, but again, we're not looking at resumes. We're not saying, well, you qualify to be on the committee or you don't. I think it's hard enough to get people willing to come to the table. So we'll go out again with a very general, no application process, just would you be willing? And I envision now, as we go out further, maybe we have a list of topics that may come up. Hiring is another one, right? We include parents and community members on some of our hires, right? Especially, like when we hired our principal, right? We had community members on that hiring committee, at least in the first round. So we could provide a list. In my head, I'm thinking maybe a list of our typical topics that we seek input on, and then kind of an open-ended, if there's anything else that might come up as an ad hoc, would you be willing to also provide your input there? So I think, generally speaking, the committee members gravitate toward topics and items they have some kind of knowledge on because they feel like they have value. But I'm not really looking for an application process to weed people out.
But it's still an email that goes out to the whole community, correct? To
Yes.
ask, okay.
Good. Okay, safety and security. We did meet earlier today. We had a meet and greet with Thomas Rose, our new safety and security head. And he did some very good work. And he presented to the board a new security quick reference guide, which I'm just going to mention, not going to talk about. And as well as he updated and went through our school safety and security plan for 24-25, which also includes our crisis response. So Safety and Security Committee reviewed it with him. We had some questions, went back and forth, and our next step is we're going to provide it to the full board for review, and then talk about it after the full board reviews it, to move it forward so the board can eventually adopt this as our new guide. It was a great meeting. I also touched upon the cybersecurity aspect of it as well, and he's going to be working together with Tom Ennie and report back to the board on that as well. The other thing we talked about, Aldo, was the traffic light at Abbott. Ashley had mentioned she had tried for years to get that traffic light, to no avail, but the board wants. I just want to bring it to the board's attention. The administration, as a board, we can try. So as a single person, as a board, we can ask.
Yeah, I believe that's a county road. For anyone watching that's not sure what we're talking about, I had sent an email to Michael about a month ago about the intersection in front of the Early Learning Center. I believe it's Harbor and Tennant. And given, the drop-off from parents that are dropping off their kids that don't get the bus service, and then the buses, that intersection, I feel like, every couple of weeks I'm seeing another accident there, and it just seems like something, I know it's not a township road, or at least the Tennant Road part of it. I don't know where Harbor falls. That's probably a township road. But definitely something that should be looked at given, the age of the students that are in that building and the amount of traffic that goes in and out of it every day. So that's what Michael's talking about.
Right. So I think Mike agreed that, and I'll mention to Ms. Mendez when she's back that the board as a whole can ask for that traffic light to be in place. Maybe it carries more weight than a single person.
Yeah, like I said, typically those things don't move very quickly, but it's something that I think would be in our best interest to at least get the ball rolling. I'm sure they're going to want to do a traffic study first off before anything is done. these things take years, you know. I probably won't be here when it's done, but it's something that I think would benefit the community and, you know, definitely the safety of the students that are going in and out of that building every day.
I have a question. If it's a county thing, does the board have any, like,
It's a county road. It's basically submitting a request to the county saying to
right,
take
so
a
as like,
look.
just as citizens, not so much as the Board of Ed, or as a Board of Ed, to submit that request?
Well, if the board as a whole makes the request, it would come from the Board of Ed,
Right.
requesting them to take a look at the intersection that it may be due for a traffic signal.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted, yeah. I get it, I didn't realize that we could do that, which is good, we can.
Okay. All right, safety and security, policy. Policy Committee met and reviewed the harassment, intimidation, bullying, and student code of conduct policies. In the August board meeting, we will share some enhancements to components of both policies, including how they are shared with families and students. That's safety and security. Buildings and grounds, Danielle.
Okay, so the Building and Grounds Committee met on July 11th, just to go over some of the projects that will be going on this summer. We talked about the air conditioning plan, so right now we're at Marl. So we were talking about how the bid date for the opening of that project is set for August 14th. So we'll probably try to award at our August meeting or our September meeting. The reason it's so late is because we've learned that the delay for the units is approximately 26 to 36 weeks.
Oh, my God.
So we are aware that they're going to have to work during second shift or run wiring through, the nighttime when school is out. So there probably will not be any air conditioning installed in time for the start of school, just due to the supply chain delays with the actual split units. But all the wiring and everything should be done as soon as we award them. Just keep in mind, this was the project that we approved with the ROD grant application, so 40% of the project will be covered by the SDA, and then the other percentage was budgeted for in the budget, so we're hoping that we get good pricing at the bid opening. Some of the other projects that we discussed was, the Abbott generator. So we had a kickoff meeting with them. They're just waiting on permitting from the township, and when that gets secure, they can start working and running wiring. The same issue is just lead times on actual equipment. So just waiting for the actual generator to come in. So they're all aware of that. So really the tie-in to the actual new generator won't happen until during the school year. But again, the contractors are pretty good where they're aware of doing that on second shift when school is out. We continue to do electrical work ongoing throughout the district, so basically just tying in any areas that are not tied into our current generators. We have our in-house electrician doing that. Rewiring the balance of the classroom, so basically just eliminating floor outlets, just trying to be more efficient in the classrooms. Ongoing repairs to the district lights, so basically like the parking lot lights you see and other lights that you'll see in the building. We're just trying to repair those in-house rather than call electrician in. We talked about the exterior doors. Our last project for that, our last phase of that is the Dugan exterior doors. So we're estimating that that's about $500,000 to finish all of the exterior doors, and that's due to the window walls that are involved in replacing those doors. So we don't believe that we'll be able to finish all of them, but we're going to basically build the bid to where we can do base bids and alternates so we can select exactly what we can do, and we're going to prioritize that on the need of the door, which is ones are in the worst shape or really a security concern for the school. We went over the cement and asphalt district-wide plans basically for the school year. So you're going to see throughout the district a lot of asphalt and cement repairs or a lot of modifications. Dugan and DeFino's courtyards and playground areas are going to be modified. A lot of that, you'll see that old rubberized flooring at DeFino is going to be ripped up and replaced. Dugan's going to basically get a facelift when it comes to new asphalt in the back and a new basketball court. And we're going to be more ADA compliant. There's a law coming down the pipe where we're going to have right-of-way access to all of the playgrounds. So we're starting to include all of those walkways in the district-wide paving project. So a lot of our playgrounds will have access from the actual asphalt to connect to the playground for ADA compliance. This work, so we awarded Lucas Brothers, so they were the ones with the lowest bid. We are going out to bid separately for the pavers here. So we will be doing that. That bid opening, I believe, is the end of August. So that was something that we wanted to do separately because we felt we would get better pricing if we did that separately, because landscaping companies can bid on that also rather than just asphalt repair companies. So they really weren't in the business of getting pavers. We saw the pricing was a little high for that. The auxiliary gym at Old Middle is getting replaced, so we're going to do an abatement there and then replace it. We're hoping that's done by the time school starts, and I don't think there's any reason of concern to not have that done. So one of the things that was brought up by the committee that was a good idea for us to do was to possibly take some before and after pictures and then try to include them in, our early budget conversations in December, just to show, exactly what we're budgeting for and what we're actually doing, so you can see the change, because not everybody is able to get out and see those projects that are not on the committee. So one of the other things we talked about is basically just we'll be doing district-wide floor removal and replacement. That's something we budget for every year. The brick repointing, and then something we also talked about is you'll see on the agenda tonight to award a new company for our custodial services. So our current provider will be leaving. They were not the lowest bid. The lowest bid is now ACB Services, and so we just talked about that and basically the plan going forward of how we're going to transition. We actually had a very nice meeting this morning regarding just the transition plan with leadership from them, and we felt comfortable to proceed with the award because all of our assurances have seemed to be met, and so they would start August 1st. And then after that, we toured one of the schools that would have a lot of the work done, and that was Dugan. And so we were able to walk around the building just to see where the work would take place, and then we're going to schedule something at the end of the summer just to maybe touch a little bit more of the schools, just to see exactly where the work was done and what has been completed so far.
I just wanted to add to it and thank Vinny for taking us around and giving us really comprehensive tours. That's kind of where the idea came for before and after pictures, because it truly is a huge undertaking, and all the projects that are going on and all the moving parts that are going on all at once are some really nice upgrades for the students they're going to be able to enjoy this year. So thank you for taking the time to do that.
Hey, Vin, if you don't mind, just 2 quick questions. First, the generator at Abbott, while we're waiting for the lead time to, run through on that new generator, is the old one still working?
Yeah, they won't do the disconnect of that generator until we actually have the new piece of equipment, and then usually what happens is they have to turn all the power off, so that'll probably happen during like a break or a day off, a scheduled day off, where they can turn the power on and connect everything.
Okay. And then the second thing was just about the air conditioners. That lead time, do we send out a purchase order, like right when we get the, right when we award the bid?
So yeah, so what will happen is, so we awarded, we approved the project, we awarded the architect to basically design the bid specs, and then when we open the bids and we see which one's the lowest, we'll bring that to the board for approval, and then once it's approved, we'll usually issue a PO right away. And of course, the companies, they won't order anything until they receive that purchase order.
Yeah, once they receive the purchase order.
Yeah,
but
that would happen
that's
the
all.
day
I
after
just wanted
approval.
to understand if we were waiting, for the purchase order to be sent over to the supplier, like if the 26 weeks started ticking then, or if it was like when the award was, when the contract was
Yeah, we're getting like
awarded.
estimated lead times dependent on when you place the order and how
Yeah.
long it's taking. So again, it'll be when we approve it, probably that's when the clock would start.
Got it. Okay.
And then don't forget with the ROD grant, so when you finish a certain amount of the project, you can actually submit reimbursement to the SDA for like substantial completion, so we won't have to wait to try to at least recuperate some
Until
of that
it's
money we put
closed out, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, are we able to perhaps put that in, the specs as we go ahead, that the equipment should be like purchased as soon as like the contracts are signed, just to get that?
Yeah, and that'll be reiterated at the bid opening.
Okay.
Depending on who gets awarded, we're going to want them to literally the next day hit the ground running.
Yeah.
And at least mobilize to start doing the wiring, and then they have to put the.
Right, yeah, that's, yeah, essentially, like, so that while they're doing the wiring and all the other, preliminary work, at least, the lead time is starting to.
And we're just hoping that we get a vendor that has a low bid, that already maybe has some on hand that can get started, or maybe the manufacturer they have a better rapport with, or a better connection with than the other one when it comes to ordering stuff and getting it timely.
Understood. All right, thank you. I
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
Okay, that brings us to financial business operations matters. We have 32 resolutions. Annette, you mind reading, please?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, transfers. 2, list of bills. 3, secretary monthly reconciliation reports. 4, travel. 5, harassment, intimidation, bullying report. 6, approval of Chapter 27 emergency virtual or remote instruction program plan for the 24-25 school year. 7, award of bid comprehensive custodial services for the Marlboro Township School District. 8, award of bid comprehensive custodial services for the provision of janitorial services to the Marlboro Township municipal buildings. 9, acceptance of IDEA allocations for the 24-25 school year. 10, approval of ESEA allocations for the 24-25 school year. 11, donation. 12, ESCNJ contract purchase, CDWG for technology supplies and services for the 24-25 school year. 13, Omnia Partners contract purchase, USA Building maintenance for roofing, siding, gutters, and related services for the 24-25 school year. 14, award of bid, resolution to award mercury catalyzed flooring abatement at Marlboro Middle School Auxiliary Gymnasium A. 15, ESCNJ contract purchase, Allegiance Trucks DBA Mid-Atlantic Truck Center for repair parts for buses and vans for the 24-25 school year. 16, contract renewal year 2, food service management company, FSMC contract. 17, approval of agreement with Freytech, Vice, Hopkins, Duthie, PC for exterior door and hardware replacements. 18, approval of agreement, Lemon Educational Consulting, LLC. 19, approval of agreement, Oxford Consulting Services, Inc. 20, approval of agreement, Oxford Consulting Services, Inc. 21, approval of agreement, MJW Physical Therapy, LLC. 22, approval of agreement, Speech Therapy Services. 23, approval of agreement, Occupational Therapy Services. 24, approval of agreement, Occupational Therapy Services. 25, approval of agreement, MJW Physical Therapy, LLC. 26, approval of agreement, Summit Speech School. 27, approval of agreement with Monmouth Ocean Educational Services Commission for educational services. 28, approval of agreement, MJW Physical Therapy, LLC. 29, approval of agreement, All Care Therapy Services. 30, approval of agreement, Monmouth Ocean Educational Services Commission. And 31, award of bid, landscaping services, 32, state contract purchases. I so move.
Thank you, Annette. You have a second? Aditi. Any discussion?
Yeah, just on number 6, I don't know if it would be Mr. Balone or Vinny, being that it's financial and business matters, but can you just clarify a little more the Board of Education submission for like this Chapter 27 emergency virtual remote instruction program?
Yeah, so just jump in if I'm not correct. So basically this is required by, so the governor signed this into law where it's required for school districts to adopt a plan each year, basically an emergency virtual remote instruction plan, just to have on file. This does not mean that we're enacting anything. It just means that we are just having one on file. We're required by law, each district's required to have one, and basically just, it basically just shares information on basically how we would proceed with operating virtually or remote, whether it be like how we clean facilities, how we deliver meals, like what our certain staff members would be doing during that time, and you want to add anything else?
Yeah, and we also, correct me if I'm wrong, once our funds are used, which will essentially, I think this will be the last time we have to do this, then we don't have to do it anymore. But we also, if you remember, at the policy committee level, we implemented a change in policy where they're, don't quote me on the number of days, but if it was at 4 or 5 days, the superintendent would consult with the Board of Ed in terms of closing for an extended period.
Yeah, that's ultimately what I was trying to just check it. So that this doesn't have any impact on that policy?
Correct.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Thank you, Aldo. Anybody else? Seeing none, Vinnie, please call roll.
Roll call, Mr. Hyatt,
Yes.
Mrs. McCormack,
Yes.
Dr. Miskowitz,
Yes.
Mr. Petruno,
Yes.
Mrs. Belomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Gandhi,
Yes.
Mrs. Seward,
Yes.
and Mr. Alansky.
Yes. I'd like to thank the Marlboro Middle School PTA on behalf of the board for the purchase of the 2 cafeteria tables for Marlboro Memorial Middle School. So thank you very much. Curriculum matters. Aldo, would you mind reading 3 resolutions, please?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolution for approval. 1, adoption of state-approved teacher and principal evaluation instruments. 2, bilingual ESL 3-year program plan, 2024 to 2027. 3, amended resolution, comprehensive equity plan. I so move.
Thank you, Aldo. So I have a second, please. Dr. Miskowitz, any discussion on curriculum matters? Seeing none? Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to thank the office for sending over that comprehensive equity plan to the board members, but prior to tonight's meeting. I realized that it was developed in 2019, 2020, before it was a hot topic, and I just want to reiterate that this is more of a district-wide equity as far as hiring and staffing and, learning material, that it's not that, controversial topic that has made its way into the news in the last couple of years. So I just wanted to say thank you for providing that for us and giving some clarity to what this was before I even was utilizing the school district, and I appreciate it. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, Vinnie, please, roll call.
Mrs. Seward,
Yes.
Mrs. Belomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Gandhi,
Yes.
Mr. Hyatt,
Yes.
Mrs. McCormack,
Yes.
Dr. Miskowitz,
Yes.
Mr. Petruno,
Yes.
and Mr. Alansky.
Yes. Brings us to personnel matters. Danielle, we have 20 resolutions.
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolution for approval. 1, retirements. 2, resignations. 3, employment, certificated staff. 4, employment, secretarial staff. 5, employment, school aid. 6, transfer, certificated staff. 7, amended extracurricular activity advisors. 8, stipends, additional duties, transportation office assistant. 9, 2024 extended school year special education program, substitute certificated staff. 10, 2024 extended school year special education program, substitute instructional assistants. 11, 2024 summer work, bus attendants. 12, 2024 summer work, substitute bus drivers. 13, 2024 summer work, substitute bus attendants. 14, student observation. 15, student practicum. 16, student teaching. 17, substitute secretaries. 18, paid medical disability leave. 19, unpaid leave of absence. 20, amended resolution, leave dates. I so move.
Thank you, Danielle. Can I get a second? Ashley, any discussion on personnel matters?
I have a question, actually. I think this belongs to personnel matters, but I recall in May, and I meant to print the agenda out, I don't recall if it was a leave or retirement, that a BCBA was going out. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, so it's correct. I don't recall this. Was it a leave or retirement? A leave, right? Okay, so it was a leave. I know we're down BCBAs from the previous year. I just want to make sure we have a plan to make sure that we're covered for the beginning of this. We do. Okay, so my question, so that position won't be vacant?
It's not vacant. I already have taken care of it.
Okay, perfect. That's my question. So thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question about number 9, only because I'm familiar with this staff member as the middle school teacher of health and physical education, but I just want to make sure that someone selected for ESY special ed programs are also licensed for special ed instruction. I just know, like, from my own experience, she's at the middle school with the Gen Ed students, so I just want to make sure she's okay.
We'll report back to you, Mrs. Seward, on that issue.
Thank you. Anybody else? Have any, please call roll.
Dr. Miskowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Petruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes, I'm just going to abstain on 9.
Okay. Mrs. Gandhi?
Yes.
Mr. Hyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. McCormack?
Yes.
Mrs. Palomo?
Yes.
And Mr. Alonsky?
Yes, we have retirement comments, sir.
I do. I have 2 sets of retirement comments. The first is for Michael Crivelli. Mike Crivelli began his career in Marlboro Township Public Schools in 2017 and will end his career here with just over 7 years of service. In those 7 years, his impact on the school district has been significant. He has been on the forefront of revitalizing the Marlboro School District's infrastructure by overseeing the replacement of boilers, roofs, energy savings improvements, the installation of HVAC at elementary schools, and so much more. This work was able to happen due to Mike's keen budget planning, unwavering work ethic, and impressive attention to detail. His kindness, reliability, leadership, and willingness to take on any job will leave Marlboro with a difficult task ahead in finding his replacement. Mike's retirement will leave an everlasting impact on the district as a whole, and he will be greatly missed by all of his staff and peers. We wish Mike nothing but the best in retirement, and we thank him from the bottom of our hearts for everything he has done for the Marlboro School District in buildings and grounds.
Do you mind, I just want to say thank you to Mike. For the last almost 3 years now that I've been on the board, I've been on the Buildings and Grounds Committee, and he really, I feel like I've worked pretty closely with him, like, as a board member. He's, one of the staff that I've interacted most with when it came to the Building and Grounds Committee, and he did, like, a fantastic job. He really, like, took pride in his work, and, I just want to wish him the best.
Thank you. Finally, retirement comments for Alan Geisey. I am happy to congratulate a long-term employee, Alan Geisey, on his upcoming retirement. Al has been with Marlboro School District for 25 years. I've had the pleasure of working with him in the Buildings and Grounds Department for the last 7 years. Al came to Marlboro with years of experience working on HVACR systems. He has kept our district operating for daily use. Not only that, Al has jumped in to perform many maintenance duties throughout the years and has proven to be an asset to our team. You will be missed, Al. Enjoy every moment of your retirement. You've certainly earned it. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Okay, policy development and community relations matters. We have 2 resolutions. Dr. Miskowitz, would you mind reading, please?
I can find it. 1 second, look at that. The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. Second reading, and the amended 2024 school year calendar. I so move.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Ashley, any discussion on policy development? Seeing none, Vinnie, please call roll.
Mr. Petruno?
Yes. Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Palomo?
one, is it the second reading or the first reading? Because it says second reading, but then it says approved for the first reading, so are we approving the second reading of that?
Second reading.
So change it to second reading.
And so I'll make that correction in a minute. So that was for the second reading you're voting on.
For legal services, yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right, yes.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Yes.
Mr. Hyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. McCormack?
Yes.
Dr. Miskowitz?
Yes.
And Mr. Olansky?
Yes. That'll bring us to our liaison reports. Do we have anything from Freehold Regional High School, Chad?
No, I don't. Other than I know their Board of Education meeting was scheduled for last month, I believe. It got moved to this Thursday. So if you're like me and you drove to the board offices to go to that meeting with pulled up with no cars in the parking lot, you know why. It's Thursday, the next Board of Education meeting. I think that's a big one where they're finalizing the budgets, so.
Thank you, sir. Anything from the MEF?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Marlboro Township. Police National Night Out will be held on August 6th. If you have a business and would like to participate, please email nationalnightout@marlboropd.org. Marlboro Day will be held on September 8th. Sponsors and vendors should apply now. Don't wait as spots fill up. Information is sent via email is posted on the town website or email recreation@marlboro-newjersey.gov. Town recycling calendar. August calendar dates were misprinted. The recycling dates are unaffected and the correction can be found on the website. Fall soccer registration is now open. Registration closes on August 12th. The swim club will hold a family fun night on Friday, July 26th. Cost for resident non-members is $10 per person. Members are free. Registration is required. Information on programs and events as sent via email to those registered. You can visit the town website to enroll for those informational emails. Next is Monmouth County School Board.
Nothing to report.
And New Jersey School Board, Danielle?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Go to our schools. I know this time of year, sometimes you don't have reports, and that's okay, but I'll check. Abbott, anything? Asher?
So for Asher, first off, I just wanted to thank Ms. Silmy for getting this over to me again. She's really very good about keeping me in the loop. The PTA, the end of year at Asher was, certainly one for the books. Brought some exciting and generous Teacher Appreciation Week sponsored by the PTA. They were in their teacher appreciation era and showered the staff with amazing coffee and treats, plus an awesome catered lunch from DeMarco's. They are very grateful and love the Asher PTA for all they do. The PTA also held their annual Mother's Day flower sale that culminated in a wonderful show for the families, and they had the grade 5 picnic at Black Bear to wrap up the school year. Thank you.
We have the field. Do you have anything?
Nothing to report.
Dugan, Danielle?
Thank you, Robin, for the liaison report. Some of the Dugan Dragons got the opportunity to present their science fair projects this summer at Monmouth Museum on July 7th. It was a wonderful opportunity for the students to share their knowledge with community members. School toolkits are currently available for purchase for the upcoming school year. Please see the email sent this past Sunday, July 7th, with information on how to order. The playground playdate will be taking place again this year before school starts. It's a wonderful opportunity for returning and new students to get together before the start of school. Please check your email for information regarding the event.
Thank you, Danielle. Morel, Sue, Dr. Miskowitz?
Yes. The PTA is already excited about the upcoming school year. They are presently working on a new and improved website, which will be launched in September. The new format is being designed to provide more security, which will afford parents to feel more comfortable when sending photos. The executive board is looking forward to meeting all of the parents at I don't know if they're a PTA or a PTO. I don't really know what the difference is, but the PTO's parent social, and the first meeting of the year, and the ice cream social, which is always a big hit, and then there's back to school night. The PTO wishes all of the Marlboro community a safe, exciting, and happy summer. It's going fast. Enjoy.
Very good. Robertsville, Ashley?
Although we are only midway through the summer, Robertsville has so much in store for the 24-25 school year. We welcomed our new principal, Mr. Giarratano, and we are so excited for the future plans in store with our students and staff. On July 9th, we celebrated the spirit of Mrs. Laura Sturgis at Jersey Freeze and Freehold. Throughout the day, students, staff members, friends, family, and many supportive community members came in her honor. Our community brought in $1,800, and Jersey Freeze will be donating 15% of the proceeds to the Sturgis family. Thank you to everyone who attended and contributed, making this a successful and beautiful day. Mr. G, it's your new nickname, our new principal and Robertsville's newest addition, is excited to get to know everyone. In an effort to meet our awesome students and families, he will be announcing a picnic with the principal event for the week of August 12th. More details to follow shortly. Be on the lookout for an email with more information to follow. Just an FYI, this is not a drop-off event. Also, if you are interested in being a volunteer in any capacity, please reach out to Jacqueline Mazzarello directly at mazzarellojpto@gmail.com. Her email's on our website. We look forward to another great year. Have a fun and safe summer.
Thank you, Ashley. MMS from Patton Walkie. We are working on welcoming students and staff back in September. Sports physicals are due by August 23rd for fall sports and intramurals, including soccer, volleyball, cross country, and the fitness club. Open house is set for August 23rd and 26th from 9 to 11 a.m. And the first PTO meeting of the new school year is set for September 17th at 9:45 a.m. I don't believe we have anything from Memorial, so that brings us to Scope. Dee Dee.
Marlboro Scope is busy planning exciting, inclusive events and fundraising activities for the upcoming school year. Stay tuned for announcements. For more information, to get involved or to become a Scope member, please visit our website at scopemarlboro.ptboard.com or email them at marlboroscopepto@gmail.com. This summer, Marlboro Scope is thrilled to partner with the Giovanizza family, I'm so sorry for not saying that correctly, Giovanizzo family, to provide summer treats for our extended school year students and staff next Thursday, July 25th. Students will have the chance to visit Goldie's Ice Cream Truck at the Early Learning Center and choose from ice cream or shaved ice. Please refer to the flyer sent home for more details.
Thank you. And CPAC, Dr. Moskowitz.
To keep the American with Disabilities Act, ADA, and Disabilities Pride Month celebratory and collaborative moment strong and energized, Special Services and CPAG will be hosting Spirit Days on the following days of ESY. July 18th, which is coming up shortly, a favorite sport team. July 22nd, favorite book character. July 25th, favorite hat. July 29th, backwards close day. And August 1st, Sunflower Day. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, old business. Anybody have any old business? Yeah, Aldo.
Yeah, I just wanted to discuss the polling locations that we had spoken about 2 months ago. I wasn't at the last meeting, so I know Mike, you and I had spoken briefly this morning, and I had spoken to Mr. Balone as well, but I just wanted to see if we can get an update for the community and figure out the next steps forward for the board.
I was going to give my update, so that goes with what you're asking. So at the last meeting, they asked me, as a liaison, to reach out across the street. I did speak to Mayor Hornick, who was very receptive to my phone call, understands completely our problem, but unfortunately, he has already said the township has already looked into other public places that could possibly hold our elections. I asked him if there's any place we could possibly double up on, is there other, that we could use more capacity. He said they looked into that, we can't. Mr. Balone reached out to the county, and the only way that elections could be moved, it has to start with the support of the mayor, right? The mayor is supportive if we could find a place. If we don't have a place that will take the elections, he will support us in that effort. He
I
The mayor's
appreciate-
stance
yeah.
is he has tried already. He has reached out to, his people have tried to find public places, and there aren't any. So this is now for our discussion. Well, what the-
Yeah, so, I mean, I appreciate, first of all, I just want to thank you for reaching out, and Michael Balone as well, for reaching out to, I'm assuming Mr. Arnoon at the county. I think, and I don't want to speak for the entire board, but I'm just going to give, like, how I feel about it. You know, per what was discussed at the NJSBA meeting, I don't think it's really, you know, unfortunately, you know, moving polling locations is going to take, you know, a good amount of work probably at the township level and the county level when it comes to the clerk of elections. I don't really feel that it's the Board of Education's responsibility to be finding alternate polling locations. I think that it really, with us, it kind of stops at, we can't utilize the school buildings for polling while we have students in the building at school. At that point, we're doing what we have to do as a Board of Ed to ensure the safety of our students, and, you know, as well as utilizing our buildings. That being said, you know, I think that we need to really just, I think we need to dig, like, I don't want to say dig our heels in, but we need to, you know, we can't be allowing students to be in the schools while we're having polling. And now that the NJSBA has provided the guidance saying that we no longer need to, you know, if, I'm totally fine with, I know Mr. Balone, you had mentioned assisting to get the ball rolling, per se. You know, I'm happy to help any way I can. I don't really, you know, it's not really our wheelhouse. Like, this is a Board of Education. I don't know why we would be, you know, looking for alternate polling locations for the township or the county clerk of elections. But that being said, if that's what it's going to take to get the polling locations out, then I think we need to just try and help in any way we can. Ultimately, because I think we need to, you know, as a board, I believe that we need to let the township and the county know that come November, we can't be using our schools anymore, and that, you know, like, it needs to happen now, because November will be here before we know it. So, that being said, we can open it up to discussion. I just want to see what everyone else's thoughts are on this.
I have a question. So I've only been here since 2017, but I swear I thought somebody said that there used to be locations at the firehouses and stuff, and it wasn't always at the schools. And if those locations are saying no, then how come the school can't say no? Like, why do they get the right to say, sorry, you can't have it here, but we don't?
Well, we do. That
So
was
then, that's
per-
what the NJSBA just made clear, right? That we can say
Right.
no.
We no longer, while we have students in the building, you know, we do not need to allow access for polling per the NJSBA's new policy manual, policy 9112.
So we would have to ultimately not, we'd have to amend our calendar and put the kids back in school those days.
Right.
Yes.
Which I
And then
think,
say, sorry, no.
yeah, and per the conversation that I had with Mr. Balone today, I think that that's actually beneficial, because it's gonna, you know, that 1 week is kind of all over the place anyway. Monday, you're in school, Tuesday, you're out, Wednesday, you're in, then Thursday and Friday, you're out for the convention, the teachers' convention. So, you know, for the continuity of learning, you go to school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you're off Thursday, Friday for a long weekend. Don't forget 2 weeks after that is then Thanksgiving, where you have another long weekend. So having that week, you know, 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, really, you know, November becomes almost like a lost month. And by doing this, you know, we'll be able to ensure the continuity of learning, but more so, you know, really ensure the safety of the kids with the polling, because we don't need to be closing school on Tuesday, the first Tuesday in November, for polling if we don't have to. I looked at several other towns. What were the two that I pulled up earlier today? I think
Wall.
Wall was one of them.
West Long Branch, I
I
think it
believe
was.
West Long Branch was another. Was it Middletown or, no, I think Middletown, Mattawan. Yeah, I think Mattawan was another one, which was, I think, larger than ours. And they had 42 districts, don't quote me, I want to say 42, whereas we had 30-something. But regardless, you know, with the number of districts, I know that, you know, there's St. Gabriel's is, for example, the district where I report to vote. I haven't spoken to anyone there. You know, again, I don't feel like it's really in our wheelhouse as the Board of Ed. This feels like something that should be coming from the county clerk or the county clerk of elections. But that being said, they're not at capacity. Between the last couple of years where we've had mail-in voting and early voting at the Manalapan Library, you know, the number of people that turn out on election day is not nearly as much as it used to be. And that being said, even when it was, you know, for the 20 years that I've been, you know, a voting resident of Marlboro, there's never been more than 20 or 30 people there when I go. And if you look at that place on Easter Sunday, you know, it's standing room only in the vestibule. So, you know, to hear that they're at capacity is really not, it doesn't really hold much weight with me. And unfortunately, I hate to, you know, I don't want to burden anyone else with extra work, but my responsibility is with the students, staff, and school buildings. And as far as I'm concerned, when there's students in the buildings, we can't be having polling. So I think that is something that we need to stand firm in.
So my question is for Ms. Paterno, Gabrielle. At our next board meeting, could we have a resolution that changes the calendar back and then just says we're not having elections in our buildings? Are we legally allowed to do that?
I'd have to look into it a little bit more because I don't know.
Microphone? Okay.
I'll have to get back to you on that. I think, I don't know if there's timelines for changing polling places. I'm not familiar with that, so I'd have to look into it and get back to you, but it's a possibility.
Okay. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Mendez to put on a discussion again on the next meeting to follow up with that to see if we can do that. And then we can always add in a resolution at the meeting if we have to. We can always add addendum.
I mean, yeah, the only thing is at that time, now we're, you know, into July already and we're looking at the July meeting. I mean, do you guys mind if you wouldn't mind just chiming in and letting me know? Like, am I alone on this?
No,
or
I
what do
agree
you
with you.
guys, like, what
You
are
have
your...
my
I
support.
agree 100% with it, and I think that families would really appreciate 2 days back at the end of summer, seeing that a lot of families that I know really struggle with their kids going to camp, and even with end of the year planning for events, those days are so limited that I think, you know, taking those days away from the children just to allow voting in the schools is really burdening the families, especially when the summer months come around and we could really use those days back.
Yeah, I'm registered to vote at Dugan, and I have never waited,
Right.
ever. I've walked in every time and gone right to the booth. So hearing that they're inundated at the voting sites and that they need big spaces to accommodate doesn't make sense to me
Yeah.
either. The parking lot is less than a dozen cars, and I've literally never waited to get into a booth. So I'm with Aldo on this as a whole, but also maybe looking into doubling up. But he brings up a good point. If we just say, like everybody else is saying, you can't use our building, how many schools are utilized during voting? Do you know off the top of your head?
6 of our 8.
6 of 8?
6.
So we would need 6 locations.
Yeah,
But
and
I don't see how that's our responsibility
Yeah,
either.
exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
we were at the, I was at the delegate meeting at NJSBA as well, and there were several superintendents as well as other NJSBA members that were speaking about what they were going to propose to get it out of their buildings, and a lot of them were just using county facilities and working with the town. So I think that this is going to be happening more than just a couple that you pulled up, and I would hate to be a district that is not, you know, that is behind with taking this away from the kids.
Also,
agree.
too, I had pulled up, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt everyone from chiming in, but just a little more information. I did pull up the polling locations for our town. I believe there was 32 districts in total that have to report to vote in person. And of those, I didn't take a tally of each one exactly, but I think the school that gets utilized most is Robertsville, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was like 4 or 5 districts reporting there. Like I said, I go to St. Gabriel's to vote, and I think there's 2 that report there. They're, you know, at looking at the other towns that I did pull up to see where they go, they're utilizing, like we are, so they're utilizing Borough Hall, their local library, both which we're not. They're utilizing firehouses, which we do, but we still have some others that we're not. Another facility that we didn't really discuss, Mr. Balone, when you and I spoke, was the swim club. That could be a potential. You know, so if we did need to find new locations, like I said, we could, but I don't really think that's our responsibility. I think that that's something the town and the county should figure out. Logistically, in my eyes, if we're looking at the schools that have to have the polling locations removed from them, I don't see why we can't just add those districts to the existing polling locations, maybe add the library. The rec center is already being used, so maybe, you know, town hall if possible. I don't know if the proximity to the police station has anything to do with why it's not now. Mr. Balone, you had a good recommendation about the board office, being that there's no students there. You know, like I said, not something I want to do, using the board office, but if it means we get it out of the schools, then let's do it. But we got to do something. We can't just sit on this, and then November's going to be here, and another year's going to go by. So, if you guys don't mind, if you can, you know,
I'm with you 100%, but I just can't vote a yes till I hear from our attorney that we're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
That
What
we're
do you
following
mean?
whatever the right way is to do that.
Well, what is the right way? I didn't really hear what she, what
I
did
think
you
she
say?
means more like the timeline of the location change.
But does that fall on the Board of Education? Like, is that our responsibility? Oh, you're talking about changing the calendar.
No.
You're talking about changing the polling location? What does it matter if, why wouldn't we start it now? And what does the timeline matter? So if we don't make it for this November, then,
I have a question.
right, but then at least we have it moving, so then, you know, it's memorialized so that going further, it won't happen again. Because if we wait and then next June comes and we start again, we're gonna run out of time again. Like, I think we need to just proceed and not sit on it, waiting, you know.
So, Mr. Balone, you mentioned that there were two school districts that have already said no. Like, I think you mentioned what, like Wall and what was the other one?
So I'm not sure if they've actually said no, but they do not use their schools for polling locations. So they have,
Yeah, if you take a look, Dee Dee, there's a website called Monmouth County Votes, and I don't have the information on hand right now, but I did look at it earlier today. I think Wall Township was one. I want to say Matawan was another, which really stuck out to me because they're a large district.
And they're a neighbor. So,
Yeah, and you know, they have more districts than we do, voting districts, not school district. They, you know, the other one that I think, was it West Long Branch?
West Long
which, you know, was a smaller district, but, a smaller township. But, you know, they also didn't, from what I understood, based on the website. The other surprising thing, was it Middletown that only had one of them only had 7 districts, and it was a town larger than us. I think it was Middletown.
that may have been Matawan.
Was that, okay.
I think so.
Yeah, one of them had like 7 districts and was a larger town by population than we are. Again, this seems like all stuff that the county clerk and the mayor should be talking about, because I don't know if they zone the districts based on population, geographic area. Again, we're a Board of Ed. It's not really our responsibility. I think what we need to do is just say we're not allowing the polling locations to be in our schools while students are there, and then amend our calendars and let, you know, local government take over and do what they have to.
And to support that, I will say, like I said when I read out from the delegate conference, the vote to pass this motion and let it sit in the school board's hands, whether or not the schools were allowed, was overwhelming. It was like there was very, very few people who voted against the resolution. So like I said, the trend, I believe, in the state is going to be get it out of the buildings, allow the children to have continuity of learning, like Aldo had mentioned. And like I said earlier, I wouldn't want to be one that's late to the game, where we have now years of, you know, taking these days away when we, you know, I know that there's always questions on, is it safe for the children to go to school when there's snow outside, and we're sitting here and contemplating these reasons. Other districts very easily just have 2 more days because they're going to get this out of their schools.
I had one more question. I'm sorry. Vinny or Mr. Balone, do we sign anything with the county that gives them permission? Do we have some type of, do they have a building use form? Like, how do we?
No,
Do we
they
have any
usually
contract with
notify
them?
us of the polling locations, and then we let the buildings know to make sure that they are there to accept the voting machines.
Have we done that already for this year?
No.
No, nothing's been communicated this year for the polling
But I think
locations.
when we discussed this first, I think it was a couple years ago, I think one of the things was that we got on the phone with the township, and they basically have to fight with the county, the elections office, to try to change it, and sometimes they won't change it, and so the township would kind of be stuck also, because I guess you don't want to be deemed interfering with an election if things have been advertised and set in stone, and then you change polling locations too late. I don't think they would allow that.
And-
So that's why you would have to be way ahead of this to try to even
Got it.
change it.
Michael Lewonski, I'm sorry, I was in the bathroom. I caught the tail end of what you were saying. You said that you spoke to the township and that the mayor has to contact the county.
Well, actually, Mr. Balone spoke to the county, and the county said that it's under the mayor's control if they would need the mayor's blessing to change the polling district. Correct, sir?
Yes, it has to initiate from the mayor.
And
in
do we
Mar-
have the mayor's blessing to
No,
keep
I
polling
spoke-
locations?
When you weren't here, I mentioned,
Sorry.
I did speak to the mayor.
Mhm.
The mayor says that there are no other public locations to be used. He can't double up anyplace else. If we knew of a place, he would agree with us and move forward with changing it. He does not know of a place to move the elections to. That's the stance right now.
And that's why I had brought to Mr. Petruno, and I know I agree, it's probably not our job, but sometimes we have to do things that aren't our job to make things happen. So
Like
I am happy to drive around town, utilize, figure out what other buildings we could use. I'm happy to do that. Even utilize buildings, as Mr. Petruno said, that belong to us that don't have students in them. Our buildings and grounds building.
I don't
Right,
even
we
see
have
how
a-
that's
we have
the
a big-
district's responsibility, let
Well,
alone the
that's,
Board
yeah,
of Ed's
that's what I was
building.
getting at, I don't think it is the district's responsibility, I think but that's fine, if we have to, I
So,
mean, based on a
how-
brief look
how
at the
about-
list,
Here's an idea.
I don't think
Just
the
an i-
library, town hall, I didn't see the Robertsville Fire Company on there, I could be mistaken, I saw Morganville and Marlboro, Fire Company, so I mean, right there's three places, the library, Borough Hall, Town Hall, and, Robertsville Fire Company, like, there's three more that you can add, if we needed to by contacting them. But on top of that, the existing locations, I think that we can put more districts than we currently, like, St. Gabriel's can have more than 2 districts. Like, that's, I don't want to speak for the church, but it's never full
Where did
when I
they
go
do
there.
it at St. Gabriel's? In
There's like
in
a
that back room?
Yeah,
Or
the
that
big-
back thing?
The big back room,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's possible that maybe some of the other, places of worship would be willing to allow us to
you know-
utilize their facilities as
Oh,
well.
yeah, the Monmouth Worship Center was another
Yeah.
one I
Well,
saw in
Martha Jewish
Vanderburg.
Center, there's
As a
couple
former
others.
principal, I hated using my building for any of these outside things, even if it was a men's basketball thing. In today's world, I just
Well,
didn't trust.
that's exactly
And
the
that's
problem.
what, I'm even more so worried about that than
50 years
lack
ago,
of
it may have
instruction.
been okay to have
Safety.
people coming in, but
Mhm.
now
Yeah,
to
I
have
agree.
people coming
I
in
agree.
during the school day to vote with no ID, like, it just can't happen.
Mhm. I agree.
I think we all agree. I certainly do. The question that we have to figure out is it too close to the election
Yeah.
to move these
Especially
polling
this
places
year.
for the county
If
clerk?
it's-
Because
yeah.
I'm all for putting in extra effort to recommend additional places to the mayor.
Right, let's make a goal for June.
Right,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
that's the
saying.
whole
I think
thing.
let's
Like,
make a
if
goal
it is
for the
too
primary
late for
election.
November, hopefully it's not.
That's
But
what I
if
was
it
gonna
is,
suggest.
I think we still proceed anyway, because
Well,
June's,
look-
June's primary
Right,
is
you're
gonna
just
be here
gonna sit
before
here
we
in
know
March
it.
and
Like,
say
then
this.
in January, we're gonna be saying the same thing, like, oh, man,
I
June's
think
too
if we
close.
can make it happen by the presidential election coming up, I agree with Vinnie, we don't want to be accused of election interference.
Yes, yeah.
That said,
Yes,
and not
yeah,
that you're saying that.
exactly.
Then let's do it, great. If we can't, let's continue going on and make our goal June. So, but I think we have to figure out if it's a little too late to
Michael, do
that.
we need to do this, like, through, like, is it something that the board needs to do as a whole? Like, should I make a motion here to have the board vote on using the schools as?
So I think that would carry some weight, right?
I'd like to make a motion that the school buildings in the Marlboro Township Board of Education will not utilize its buildings with students in it for polling locations during an election. Can I have a second?
Okay, so we have a second. So open up discussion on Aldo's motion.
Where does, when, with this motion, I have a question. Where, is it legal at this point? I don't
That's
know.
my
Well, I can't, that's what I said before. I
Yeah.
can't vote yes on this motion until I hear from
Yeah,
our attorney.
exactly. Yeah,
that
I
can
think
do
we
this,
have to
so-
wait.
Well, the
I
motion
agree
is-
with you,
Yeah,
5,000%.
If I'm mistaken, the motion is just to not have voters in the building
Yeah.
with the children. Let's just make
Yes.
that,
Yes,
That's-
but,
is that why the schools are closed? Oh, I thought that was just an amended calendar, that we decided that the schools would be closed on primary election day because the students were there, not so much a motion or a policy.
Oh, I'm not, yeah, I'm not.
Aldo's motion is to move the elections out of the building, right?
Right, my
Yeah.
motion, the motion as I presented it is just that no polling locations will be allowed in the school buildings while we have children present. And
as of what date? As of, for
no,
for
just-
November, or can we do it for?
I
you know,
can't put, I would love to say by November, but
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I said I would love to say by
Yeah,
November, but
but
I don't want to be accused
We
of
don't, we have to
voter
get the legal pieces.
interference or whatever.
So.
How about as soon as possible? Can you add that to the
Your
motion?
motion doesn't say we reopen the schools, you just says what we're doing now. We're not gonna have children in the buildings while we have elections, that's what you're saying.
Okay.
I think we just, I get what Aldo is saying, but I think we need to, again, just on legal advice, is just kind of look into that. But I do agree that if there are definitely other options within our community that we can utilize, we don't have to have it in our schools. But I just want to make sure that we're not going to be in violation of anything, and then I feel more comfortable voting.
I agree, but I know that you have reached out to NJSBA for other things, so this came directly from them, and it
Yeah.
affects their policy guidance. So they rolled out a new policy effective immediately after that, when we went to the delegate meeting. And their policy is advising that the decision lies within the school board.
Yeah.
So that, we use Trust Esme, but NJSBA, their policy is going to dictate that this is now within the school board. So,
I have no issues with saying that if this is going to be in effect as of next year, absolutely, my vote would be yes.
Yeah.
My only concern is for this year, if we're going to be in any violation, just to kind of check that, because we don't, that's the last thing that we want. We're trying to do
So
something
if
positive.
it
I would
can't be
hate for that to
this
be.
year, though, we just wouldn't amend the calendar then. But right now, we don't have students for November because the schools are closed. So
Right.
it wouldn't matter. We could still proceed with this motion, and then if we can have it done by November, we can amend the calendar before school starts to bring the kids back on election day and then move forward. If not, then we do it for June. We don't need to amend the calendar at this time. I think we need to get the ball rolling on getting the polling locations out.
Yes, the motion on the table. Could you state the motion again? Again, you have it written down?
No, so it's basically a motion to not have children in school during the election, right? Correct?
No,
To,
no.
yeah,
No, that's not what I'm hearing.
no, it's that that we're not gonna have students during, we're not gonna have polling locations in the buildings while students are present. And if we currently, now that we currently do, they're no longer, we have to have the polling locations moved, is essentially what we're
Mr.
saying.
Malone, I'm confused now, because it's going around in circles here. Presently, are the kids aren't, they have off for Election Day this year?
Correct.
Okay, so they have off now. Okay, yes, what? And June, yes. So, okay, just so when I vote, I wanted to make sure that I know what I'm voting on.
So, you know what, to make it a little easier, I'll just amend the motion, to say that, I'd like to make a motion that the Marlboro Township, Board of Ed will no longer utilize its school buildings as polling locations.
Effective immediately. See, and I can't vote for that, because until we find
I
out.
need another second for the, Ashley? Okay. And that starts immediately, Aldo?
There's no,
For no, yeah.
The problem is if by law we can't
Yeah,
move them in
yeah,
time for
that-
November,
that's-
we're
yeah,
gonna have to.
That's, yeah, I would abstain, yeah.
Otherwise, I'm
Yeah.
100% on board.
Yeah, same thing with me.
I
Yeah,
have a
but
question.
so-
How could
so
there be a
that's why-
law?
That's why this motion's probably fine, because there's no specific time frame. It's just going forward, so we're going to work towards doing this, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
Would it be
So-
better to put as soon as humanly possible? I don't know. Whatever it takes, guys.
As
Let's
soon
just
as
get the
legally
polling out of the
possible.
schools, please.
So what are we doing about the mail-in ballots?
Just on the microphone. Aldo Gabriel has a,
Well, I
Had a little-
think, if I'm correct in understanding, I think we would be saying that this motion would be for the 25-26 school year on, and then look into what we could do for the 25, or 24-25 school year, which is the upcoming school year.
Yeah, ultimately, you're asking for a date then.
Yeah.
The way that the NJSBA presented it is that the power to make the decision is gonna lie with the local school board. So that's us.
Listen,
And
I am with
sorry.
you, I
Correct.
support
that's why I'm
this,
saying,
I'm with
like,
you, I just,
you
there
know.
isn't enough information yet. Like, you're coming forward with a motion, not knowing the answers to the timeline of moving polls.
There's no students in the buildings this election day. If we can't do it for November, it'll be done for June. Either way, it's gotta be done.
yeah, but we're making a motion that says it can't be, and we
I-
could
I
be
think
breaking a rule or a statute.
I only think the motion is getting a consensus of our board and asking if we want the polling locations to no longer be in the schools that are in this school district. That's the motion. And as soon as we can get them out, if things are already standing and on the calendar, then we just won't amend the calendar and we'll proceed. But as soon as it's possible, does this board that's sitting here want polling locations in the schools or not in the schools? I think that's all the
That's
With all
exactly
due
what the attorney
respect,
was
we've-
saying, though. So her motion was exactly that. She said that we're going to motion for the year of 25-26,
Yeah.
that we're voting, there's gonna be no polling, no
Yeah.
polling taking place
Right.
in,
But
our
I don't-
schools,
I
and
don't
then for
understand why we need a
24,
date.
sorry, for 23-24, no, 24-25.
Yeah.
That we're gonna check to see, and if we're able to, we'll get it out without, breaking any rules, any violations. If not, then we'll keep it as is. So that's it.
But why
So
would we assign
my-
any date
Yeah.
to
Okay.
a
And
And
motion?
not only that, see, the other issue is we've been talking about this for 2 or 3 months now, and I thank you, Michael, for reaching out. We've obviously come to a standstill, though, where they said they can't assist us, and it's not us that needs to be assisted. We're the ones saying, like, where it lies, the school board makes the decision. You can no longer use our schools as a polling location. We're willing to help you find other locations, but it can't be in our schools. I mean, how else do I say
Yeah,
this?
so just bear with me. So what happens if we make the motion? Marlboro Township Board of Education will work to no longer have school buildings utilized as polling locations in effect by the end of 24-25. Because then that gives you have a November election and a June election, so
It's progress.
it's a step, but we
That's
still
fine.
need to, I guess, propose polling locations to even consider a change.
Okay.
My idea was, if the board wants, I would ask Mrs. Mendez maybe to make an ad hoc committee, election committee, whatever you want to call
I
it.
No,
think,
we've
I
got-
think
We
the
can work
motion
on
is
it,
on the
not
table, and we
once a
should just
month.
vote on
We're
it, to
gonna
be
make a
honest with you.
committee
Like, if you
to-
want to vote
No,
now,
this
then
is,
we can vote
besides
now.
this, to try to,
But
if
we
we have
can
to try
kinda
to
just
find out
vote
the
now.
We're
location.
gonna make a committee to get the locations out of the school. Like, that's the county government and the township government's job. That's not the Board of Ed's job.
We have too many other
Like-
things we have to do.
Okay. Yep, so we are voting for the motion of Marlboro Township BOE will work to no longer have school buildings utilized as polling locations to be in effect by the end of the school year 24-25.
Okay, Aldo and
25,
So I
Ashley?
have a first, and then who was the second? Danielle? Okay, roll call, Mrs. Gandhi.
So by the end of, so in case
So
we
during
can't
this
really
upcoming
do it.
school year,
We're working.
we're going to be working towards removing them
Right,
because
yes.
in
So
the
if
event
we
that
can
by
do
law
it,
we
great.
cannot by
If we
November
can't,
or,
Great, yeah, okay. That works.
so Mrs. Gandhi?
I just want to clarify again, that if we're not in any violation then we'll put this in effect, right?
I think that's the
Yeah.
idea, yeah.
I
Okay.
think
Then yes.
we're gonna work towards getting them out of our school district.
By the end of
Then
the
yes.
school year, by the end of this next school year.
Or sooner. I think
Or-
this,
yeah, or s- yeah,
if we wanted a
could do it
time limit
sooner,
on
that's
this, then
great.
the end of the
And if we
24-25
can't,
school
at
year
least
is
it
a
gives us
suitable
year.
timeline.
Can we just say as soon as possible?
Okay, Mr. Hyatt,
Yeah, let's do it. I'm in.
Mrs. McCormack,
Yes.
Dr. Miskowitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Seward,
Yes.
Mrs. Palomo,
Yes.
Mr. Petruno,
Oh, yeah, you better vote.
I abstain, no, yes.
and Mr. Alonsky.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else have any other old business? Yeah.
I don't know if this would fall under old business, but I remember, Mrs. Gross, you had mentioned, because curriculum is being written up right now, that at some point you were going to present to the board the changes that were implemented, so just want to make sure that that's still happening for us. Because I know we talked about that when that happened, so just want to make sure of that. And the other thing, Mr. Cohen, he brought up the funds that, I guess, I couldn't write everything down, but that are available right now for cybersecurity that we could potentially apply for it. Are there any plans to do anything like that? Are you aware of that? Are you going to look into that? Just curious.
So the curriculum writing, Dr. Miskowitz did report out that we're going to provide the board with the changes. It's actually going to be a multi-layered process. So the board will get to view the changes. The community will also get to view the changes under, on the website, we have a tab. So if you go to the curriculum tab, which is on the right-hand side of the page toward the top, there's a draft curriculum section, draft curriculum guide section. So the Board of Ed will see the guides. The community will then be able to see the guides in advance of the August 20th Board of Ed meeting. So,
And also, just to reiterate, I'm sorry, something that we spoke about during the committee meeting was that the board will have a preview of the updated curriculum with the new standards a little bit in advance of the community, so that
Right.
we can review before they're posted on the website, and then the community will review before they're voted on at the board meeting.
That's what you're asking.
No, but my biggest thing was, is how are we going to know, like, what the changes were? Is that going to be marked up, or, like, I'm just curious, because I wouldn't know how to, like, do side by side. But as edits were being made, I think the recommendation that the board made was, if there is a way to capture it, whether it is redlining it or whatever,
I
like,
think you
just
had
to.
mentioned crosswalks, right? There would be crosswalks.
yeah, come on over.
Yeah. Oh. In the meeting.
Thank you. Is this thing on?
That might not work.
Is it? I think it is working. So we will have a crosswalk that will show you how the standards have changed. But the guides, I think you should read them as a whole so that you can kind of see how the pieces come together. But the crosswalk will help you see how the standards have changed, which will kind of allow you to focus on what parts of the guide you want to read. But I still would recommend reading.
The thing in the entirety, yes.
And then the cybersecurity piece, Vinny, have you had any information, do you have any information on that funding that's
so
available?
we've actually, we've always looked at opportunities or grants that are outside of E-rate, so we actually did get approved last year for it was a small grant, I think it was about 50,000 for cybersecurity initiative, so this would just be another one that we could look to apply for. We just have to see the stipulations for the actual application. I know some of these that come out, it can be very competitive, and then some of them always require that you need to be like a needy district or an urban area district where they give you the most funding. So seems to be a common cause of when we apply for competitive grants.
Yes.
Like the playground grants, we looked into those. That was the same situation. So we knew we had like no chance to actually qualify for one. So we would definitely take a look at that.
Okay. Any new business?
I have some new business, something that I wanted to talk about. I think that I was going to wait until Valentina's back, but just on the heels of some of the things that we were saying and even some of Aditi's questions earlier, I would like to bring forth to everyone. I had reached out about 2 weeks ago. about a accountability committee or an advisory committee that kind of memorializes some of the really good things that have been happening. I had spoken to Mr. Balone about community involvement and involving more of the community in the advisory capacities, but it has become, we have had many different areas where we've been getting advisory capacity from either local establishments, community members, and even just things that we're doing on the board, but they don't fall in any committee work. And to Aditi's point earlier, it would be nice to have some of these people that have more specialized interests come forth and form these committees as part of the board. And we could make local business owners. We've formed a really nice relationship with MJC with the training that's coming up, and also some of the relationships that we've had with other establishments. And these things should be repeatable. So it's not just a response to an incident, but an ongoing relationship. And I would love to discuss more, either in executive or here or in the future, about making this committee something that stands, and then community involvement, something that's dictated not just on a response to an immediate situation, but something that's actually standing, that we can go out to these resources, like I said, either local business owners, community members, parents, and really utilize all of the wealth of knowledge and the plethora of knowledge that we have in our community to kind of shape some of these plans and give feedback to the district.
Sounds interesting. Would you be, if I had Ms. Mendez put it on agenda for discussion at the next meeting, officially on the agenda, and then we can get some more background information on it, maybe some on the green notes from you, what that would look like? And
sure.
That makes sense?
Okay. Yeah, I personally, I'm fine with that, but is there an issue with discussing it now? Or are we able to discuss it now, or? Yeah, I'm just, the idea is interesting. I like the sound of it. I kind of like to hear what everyone else's thoughts are, if you guys don't mind.
I have questions.
Yeah.
So, Danielle, what were you thinking? How many people? How would it be? Who would pick the people?
So we have actually very few committees as a board in comparison to other districts. I'm sure you know that. I know that you're well versed in this. So things like technology, that's really important. And we've heard several of our community members come to the microphone, and I was very excited to hear that there's an initiative being taken with that. But that's something that's ongoing and fluid, much to like our conversation. So that should be, it should be like, there should be a protocol to it. So we're making a plan now, but if there is a cyber security issue, or if there is technology issues, it shouldn't just be a response, but this committee should sit as a technology committee with an advisory capacity, so that it would be the implementation of more committees under a broader kind of scope, if that makes sense. It's done in a lot of other districts, so.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna ask. Is there technology committees on other districts, in other districts? Do they have?
A technology committee or a committee of an advisory?
Like an advisory committee would be the community members that came in specific areas.
Oh, I
So it's not
misunderstood. I thought you
just-
wanted board members as the advisory committee, and then the board members would select the community members.
Right, so this is, the advisory committee would have board members on it, and they would help
yeah, I think
outreach. So
it's-
like you do communications, so the coffee chats would be a great starting point to kind of bring community members in specific subject areas.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I just was
This is
confused
like
with
a
the
very
verbiage, that's all.
broad question that will need a lot of time to discuss, like we had said, but it's something that we're seeing, you know, like I had mentioned, the relationship that's building with some of the religious organizations and then also with technology. So we're seeing it, it's just, there's no way to repeat it. It's not a process, it's just kind of ad hoc here, ad hoc there, and it's a response instead of a plan. So instead of being responsive, I would like to be proactive and have something sitting there. So when, you know, whatever crisis comes down the road, we already have a plan in action on how we're going to address it instead of just a response. And that would be with active community members, like I had mentioned, that we can just call on. And it's not just picking who is ever, you know, there at the moment, but instead.
Well, I
people
like
that
it,
have
I
been-
support it, I just think that we should discuss it more with our
100%.
board president here. I just don't know if we
Yeah,
should
she
have
knows
like.
about it. I've
No,
discussed-
I know,
I
no, I just meant the
definitely-
discussion part,
Yeah.
just so that, you know, we
Agreed.
don't have to do it twice.
I just wanted
kind
to
of
bring
thing.
it to the table so
I
that
love
it
it.
was out there, and then if you want to add it to the agenda, or if we want to take an executive, just.
Yeah, I think we should add it for next meeting. I support the idea. I think we should involve our community more. Absolutely.
Yep. I agree. So I'll talk to Ms. Mendez and make that happen.
Thank you.
The other new business. Our next public comment session, have anybody to listen?
No, would anybody like to speak? Seeing none?
Seeing none, I'll read the executive session resolution. Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, the Marlboro Township Board of Education shall conduct a closed executive session pursuant to exceptions prescribed by NJSA 10:4-12 for the purpose of discussing matters of attorney-client privilege. Anticipated length of time, executive session will be 60 minutes. Action will not be taken in public after the executive session. Be further resolved that the minutes of executive session will be released when the need for confidentiality in accordance with NJSA 10:4-12 no longer applies. All those in favor? Anybody against? Motion passes. We'll go to exec. Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming.